Swinging a drive, right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Jean.
This is the Fly the W podcast. We are part of the Blue Wire Network, and it is episode 55 of season number 4. Crawly, unfortunately, the Cubs were swept away in Cincinnati. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe. Most importantly, review the podcast. You can follow us on our socials. I'm at Mully and Haw on X.
You can follow me at Crawly's Club on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. And you can email us at crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com.
All right, Crawly. Unfortunately, things did not go well at the Great American Ballpark unless you were a Reds fan or a Cubs hater, as a 4-game series that nobody's really fond of entirely went to the Reds, and the Cubs now are in a difficult situation. I mean, obviously they're in the postseason, but they've got a 3-game lead as we are doing this live and recording it. And they are back home starting on Tuesday. They've got 3 against the Mets, who are at the moment on the outside looking in. And then the Cardinals come in for the final 3 at Wrigley. And you know they'd like nothing better than to screw up Cub fans having some games at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, it was in your hands, and you had control of the situation, and you let it slip away. And Dustin, I took a lot of heat. What did I say? I said that they partied too much and got a little crazy and all this stuff. And I felt that the job wasn't done, right? Like it's this famous, if you're on the internet ever and you see this meme, it's called the bronze medal meme, right? Where it's just this guy who's, kissing the girl and popping the champagne and flicking everybody off. And the first and second place are looking at the guy like, okay, congratulations on third. The Cubs, congratulations. They made the postseason. I'm going to sit there and I'll say it again. I like parties. I like celebrating. But to me, you were going to go into a tough situation against a really, really good Reds team. I'm going to say they're a really good Reds team, and they were playing for their life. That was it. If they would have gone, if we talked about in the last podcast, if they would have split, that would have been a real, real tough hole to climb out of for the Reds. But they didn't. They took all 4. They put themselves square back in the playoff picture, and the Cubs got hit in the mouth and they couldn't get back up. And I'm sorry, one team was playing like it had everything to lose, and another team was playing, just kind of thought they were going to saunter in there and do something, and they paid for it.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I was pleasantly surprised. I was texting with David Haw about this on Thursday when we saw the lineup for the Thursday game. And I was pleasantly surprised, and I said, this looks like the lineup that you would use, assuming that Kyle Tucker can't play in the postseason, at least in game number 1. This is the lineup you would use. Because, Crawly, to your point, they told us the fans, us the guys covering the team, that they were going to enjoy the day, but then they were going to turn the page quickly because there was more to do. So I thought we would kind of get like a Sunday lineup on Thursday. No, we got a first class, what the Cubs got here with lineup minus Kyle Tucker because he's not available right now. And they ran into a buzzsaw, right, in Hunter Green. We're going to get into the game a little bit deeper in a minute. But, like, I understood where Craig was going with it, but then it backfired, and then he never let off the gas, and I think the guys were hungover, were tired, were tuckered out. And until Sunday, because they were facing the second left-hander, you didn't really see the regulars get a day off. And I think I liked what he was doing, but it didn't work. He said, the players said there was more to do, but obviously, they spoke it, but they could not deliver it. They talked the talk, but they did not walk the walk.
Yep. And again, look, I'm not going to say that if the Cubs didn't party, they would have beat Hunter Green that day. I'm not saying that.
Right. But that's why with Hunter Green out there, unless the idea was, listen, guys, you guys got to know what it's like to face an ace and this is the type of guy we can be facing in the postseason. Probably not him, but a guy like that, a guy with that kind of stuff. So it's important that you see that. Then okay, I can buy into that. But he took a risk and it backfired, and I think it set the whole series in a downward spiral.
Well, it was interesting because it was Colin Ray versus Hunter Green, and we had no idea when this game started it was going to be an old school pitchers duel, right? At the Great American.
Colin Ray had one of, if not his best outing of the year.
Right. Bottom of the first, one out, Ray gives up back-to-back singles to Gavin Lux and Austin Hayes. He retires the next 8 batters he faced. Bottom of the fourth, Austin Hayes strikes again, leads off with a double. Ray gets Sal Stewart to strike out, but Will Benson doubled to score Hayes. Reds up 1-0. Ray would get Spencer Sear to ground out and Ellie De La Cruz line out to strand Benson at second. After the Benson double, Ray would retire the next 11 batters he faced. Colin gave up only 1 run in 7 innings, which would tie his longest outing of the season. He gave up 4 hits, 2 in the first and 2 in the fourth. He didn't walk anybody. He struck a career high 11 batters. Dustin, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season who would have the most strikeouts in one game from the Cubs starters, Colin Ray wouldn't have been on my list.
Nope. Not even close to the top of the list. That's for damn sure.
No. Most strikeouts, 11 by Colin Ray. Matt Boyd had 9. Imanaga had 9. Ben Brown 9. Imanaga 9 again. Brown 9 again. But Colin Ray is the one that has had the most strikeouts in a single game, and that was there. And Dustin, I listened to the post game and all this stuff, and he says all the right things, and I think all the guys have been saying the right things. I'll do whatever you want me to do, wherever you want me to pitch, whatever. Mm-hmm. What I'm looking at, and we'll get to the JMO start as well, because it's a very similar game as what happened on Sunday is what happened on Thursday. But when I take a look right now at who are the best 3 pitchers going into this postseason right now, you got to start looking at Colin Ray. You got to start looking at JMO. And of course, Cade Horton is number 1 on anybody's list on this. I don't know. And this is something maybe you want to ask Tommy Hotovy. They asked Ray about what was happening in game 1.
Felt like we were rolling today. We were in good rhythm all day. Delivery felt like it was in a good spot. And I thought Carson just did a good job of kind of mixing it up. We were able to land the breaking balls for strikes when we needed to, and throw some fastballs in good spots. And it was a good day. My job is just to keep us in the game and keep us as close as possible. He obviously did a really good job tonight. I think it was a good night to pitch. When my delivery's in a good spot, and the ball's come, no matter what pitch it is, the ball's coming out of the same tunnel. Makes it just, that deception factor or whatever it is. It just gives you confidence to kind of, use more plate with those pitches than you normally would. You don't have to be too fine. You can go right after them. So I think a lot of it comes back to the delivery, and I felt like, Tommy and Casey really helped me. I think it was 2 outings ago. I was getting very rotational, and now I feel like we're more direct to the plate, and I just feel like that's, put me in a good spot.
I'm just curious as to what start he's talking about, where Tommy may have pulled him aside and said, look, this is what we're seeing. And then whatever change they've made seems to be working.
Yeah. Yeah. Kudos to Tommy as usual. He won't be on this week. He was just on. But hopefully we'll have him on during the playoffs, right?
Yeah. Now, as good as Ray was, Hunter Green was just slightly better, making the Cubs offense look feeble. He sat down the first 12 batters he faced. Cubs got the first base runner in the 5th. Moises Ballesteros leading off. He reaches on an error by Ellie De La Cruz. Seiya pops out, Carson Kelly strikeout, but then a scary moment. PCA is up the bat. Moises is on first. PCA hits a screaming line drive, 105 miles per hour off the bat. Spencer Steer dives for the ball. It just glances off the top of the glove, hits Moises flush in the helmet. He gets knocked down. He gets up, starts running to second, but the ball ricocheted right to TJ Friedel, who threw Moises out at second. Moises looked dazed. PCA looked extremely concerned. Dustin, there's a couple thoughts I have about the situation.
It was scary. That was scary, first of all. It was really scary to start with.
Right. Number one, I don't know what's going on with the Cubs medical staff. I haven't known for years. Why would he continue in the game? Why wouldn't you have pulled him at that point?
Well, I mean, a lot of times the player says, I'm okay, I'm good to go, that kind of stuff.
And it's the medical staff job to say, no, you just took 105 miles an hour off the noggin. Why don't you sit down and make sure that you're okay? We will watch you. The other thing is, what is the Cubs' luck lately? That PCA hits one that hard, it hits off your guy's helmet, and the ball literally ricochets right to the fielder. Right. I mean, the fact that Moises got up and he almost made it to second. But I mean, it's just feels like that this was the Cubs all weekend long. No breaks went their way. Nothing went their way.
Nothing went their way. No.
Nothing. Sixth inning, Cubs got their second base runner. Bush draws a 2-out walk. Nico grounds out to end the inning. Cubs finally end the no-hitter in the seventh, say with a double down the line. Carson Kelly grounds out to end the scoring threat. Green would sit down the next 7 Cubs and get the complete game shutout. 1 hit for the Cubs run out offense.
1 measly hit. Yeah.
3 base runners, 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position. Dustin, Green threw 109 pitches. The velocity on pitch number 107 was 101.5 miles per hour.
Wow.
He threw 6 pitches at 100 plus miles per hour in the 9th inning, 2 more than any other starter in the 9th inning of a game ever since they came out with pitch tracking. So, I mean, this was just ridiculous. But again, if the Cubs never celebrated, if they didn't celebrate, that was one hell of a game by Hunter Green. But Dustin, to what you said earlier, this is the type of competition. If you want the ultimate goal of the World Series, you're going to have to face the Tariq Skubals. You're going to have to face the Hunter Greens. You're going to have to face the Yamamotos. This is what you're going to have to face. And no matter what they're throwing, you have to figure out a way to get runs somehow, some way.
Well, let's hope it gets better as the week gets started as soon as tomorrow, Crawly, when they got the Mets at home, right? That's all you can hope for as far as that goes. All right, let's get into game number 2 then. Shota Imanaga was on the hill. Cubs fall in this one 6-4, and I've got questions for our skipper in this one as well.
Yep. Last episode, we talked about Shota's home run woes, and especially in the first inning. He came into the game with an ERA with 6.65 in the first. Well, that number just went up because he gives up a solo home run to Miguel Andujar in the bottom of the first. Cubs trail 1-0. Cubs answer in the second. Dansby with a solo home run to tie it up. For Dansby, that was home run number 23. Cubs weren't done. Top of the third, 1 out. Nico singles. Ian Happ doubles. Horner goes from first to home, and the Cubs take a 2-1 lead. But Dustin, in what would be an annoying pattern all weekend, every time the Cubs would score, it felt like the Reds would immediately answer.
Yep.
Right?
Every time.
Bottom of the third, Matt McClain homers to tie the game. Cubs answer back in the fourth with 2 outs. PCA singles and Matt Shaw homered to double the Reds up 4-2. Bottom of the inning, Spencer Steer hits a 2-out homer. The third homer of the game given up by Shota. Reds trail 4-3. Through 4 innings, Shota had only given up 3 hits, but they were all solo home runs. So when you take a look at what Shota does, that's what he does, right? He's given up 29 home runs this season, but 24 of them have been of the solo variety, 4 the 2-run and 3 1-run. They're only solo home runs, but we've talked about it in the postseason. That's not going to play.
No,
No.
I mean, there's people that don't think that he should start in the postseason right now, at least in the 3-game series.
We'll see about that. Bottom of the 5th, Cubs lead by 1. Shota issues a leadoff walk to Ke'Bryan Hayes, who advances to second when Shota makes an error trying to pick him off. Ground out moves Hayes to third, and Imanaga strikes out McClain with 2 outs. TJ Friedel singles. Hayes scores. The game is tied. For Shota, he pitched 5 innings, gave up 4 runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 4 Ks, but 3 of the hits he gave up out of the 4 were homers. And Dustin, this has been a problem we've been talking about. When you look at the pre versus post All-Star, pre-All-Star, he was giving up 1.46 home runs per 9 innings pitch. That is above the MLB average of 1.14. Post All-Star break, it's now jumped to 2.28 with the MLB average at 1.25. That's second most among pitchers with at least 45 innings pitched after the break. So this This is a problem right now. This is a serious issue, and I don't know what they're going to do. Now, I got a feeling that, when you talk about the postseason, it may be 1 or 2 runs that win the game. So it might be 1 or 2 solo home runs. They're going to throw their best pitchers and their best relievers the second they get a lead. So that's the problem. Now, I think I know where you're going with where you're angry with Craig Counsell here. First guy out of the pen, Porter Hodge.
Why? I understand taking Shota out when you took him out. Why Porter Hodge? Well, I mean, are you trying to see if he can step up? Again, if you're trying to win these games, then why are you going to Porter Hodge with a lead in a game that you can win? Why? Explain that one to me, Crawly.
I think it's the fact that Shota wasn't able to go that long kind of hurt them. But again, they really didn't use any bullpens pitches. The night before.
I mean, right. They did no bullpen the night before, but he did throw 83 pitches. So, I mean, Again, if you're expecting him to be a big part of your postseason, I have no problem with pulling him when they did, but I have a problem with why would you go to that guy? And when did he earn that? When did he earn that spot?
I mean, I do think it might have been Craig testing out to see if he could handle it. And
guess what? He can't, and he's gone. Okay. And finally, Jordan Wicks, who they've hated for forever now, for some reason, is back up with the team.
Yeah, Porter, that was a rough outing. He struck out Miguel Andujar to start the inning, but Austin Hayes singled, and then Spencer Steer unties it with a home run to left to put the Reds up 6-4. Ellie De La Cruz back-to-back. Cubs lose this one 7-4. Between Shota and Hodge, they gave up 7 runs on 5 homers. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
And it's not winning baseball. That's not how you're going to win in the postseason.
And as bad as the pitching was, the offense was just as bad. The Cubs out hit the Reds 11-7, but were 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. They left 7 men on base. Swanson, Justin Turner, and Ian Happ left runners in scoring position with 2 outs. They could not get the clutch hit, Dustin. It was that classic home run or bust that we've seen in the second half, right?
Too much of that. Yep.
The Reds were 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position, left 3 on base, but Steer, Friedel, and Andujar all had 2-out RBIs. They were clutch. The Cubs were not.
Not clutch. Not clutch. All right, so that was game number 2, right? We go to game number 3 now, Crawly. Javier Assad, not exactly sure why he was starting, but okay, the Cubs decided to push Cade Horton back again. This is positioning for the postseason, right? That's the point of that one as well. So Javier Assad starts on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think you're just jockeying for position at this point and kind of getting ready to line up your rotation as you would want it. Javier Assad is fresh. And so, he was given the ball and no score in the 3rd inning. Michael Busch hits a solo home run to put the Cubs up 1-0. For Busch, that was home run number 30. He became the first Cubs hitter to get 30 home runs since 2019 when Kyle Schwarber had 38 and Chris Bryant hit 31. He was the first Cubs first baseman to have at least 30 home runs since Anthony Rizzo had 32 in 2017. Dustin, can you name the other Cub first basemen that have hit 30 home runs?
Oh, Dave Kingman, right?
No, Dave Kingman.
He didn't play first base?
No Dave Kingman on that.
I'm guessing Leon Durham did not hit 30.
Nope.
No. Derek Lee hit 30.
Derek Lee, yes.
Derek Lee's on that list.
One of them's a really difficult one that you wouldn't get. Fred McGriff.
Okay. Crime Dog. Yeah.
And then Ernie Banks was the other.
Well, and again, I know Ernie played first, but I don't think of him as a first baseman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. That's good trivia.
Yep.
That's good trivia. I should have gotten Fred McGriff. I really should have.
Now, the Reds immediately answered, but the Reds were playing small ball. Single by McLean, steals second. TJ Friedel singles to put runners at the corners. Spencer Steer with a weak infield single. Shaw tried to get the runner at home, but throws not in time. Game is tied at 1. I didn't think it was a bad play to try to get the runner at home the way everything played out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Assad was able to get the next 2 out, but Will Benson singles to put the Reds up 2-1. Another clutch 2-out single. Now, top of the 5th, Reese McGuire ties it up with a solo home run. We've been talking about how good the Cubs bullpen has been. Not on Saturday. Drew Pomeranz came out in the 5th with the game tied. He gives up a home run to Spencer Steer to give the Cubs to give the Reds a 3-2 lead. Bottom of the 7th, Aaron Savali, he pitched 2 innings. He pitched the 6th and the 7th. He gave up a solo home run to TJ Friedel to put the Reds on top 4-2. But Reese McGuire, he had a home run in the 5th. He adds an RBI double in the 8th. Cubs are within 1 run, but once again, the Reds answer. Andrew Kittredge, who's been so good on the mound, had a runner at first. Tyler Stevenson homer to make it a 6-3 game. That would be the final. The Reds hit 3 home runs off the 3 pitchers that came out of the pen. So, Dustin, when you're talking about Wide Porter Hodge, I mean, the guys that they did kind of have come out on Saturday couldn't get it done either, right?
Nope. We're up to the challenge. But the difference there was, I mean, they were playing from behind, right? Versus playing with the lead. Porter Hodge.
Right.
God.
The Cubs offense scored 3 runs on 7 hits, but 2 of the runs came off home runs. Ian Happ 0 for 4. Moises Ballesteros 0 for 3. Dansby 0 for 4. PCA 0 for 4. Once again, no clutch hits, 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position and left 5 men on base.
Well, that doesn't, again, that's another thing, right? The amount of guys they're leaving on base, runners in scoring position, situational hitting, all bad. All right, so the Cubs are looking to avoid being swept in Cincinnati. A little rain delay for this one, but Jamison Tyone against Andrew Abbott. So the Cubs going up against another lefty.
I felt that the Cubs did good against Abbott, but JMO was great. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 1 run on 5 hits, no walks, no home runs, and 4 Ks. So it's very similar to Colin Ray's start. Only trouble he got in was in the 3rd, 1 out, Matt McClain double. He got TJ Friedl to fly out, 2 outs. The Reds once again with a clutch 2-out hit. Gavin Lux double to put the Reds up 1-0. Cubs offense once again out hit the Reds 6-5, but for the second time in 4 games, they couldn't score a run. Top of the 3rd, Cubs hit back-to-back singles to lead off the inning. Couldn't score a run. Top of the 4th, 1 out. Cubs hit back-to-back singles. Couldn't score. Top of the 9th, 2 on, 2 out. PCA strikes out to end the game. Cubs swept by the Reds. The offense was 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Left 9 men on base. Suzuki, Bush, Turner, PCA left runners in scoring position with 2 outs. Dustin, every single thing that the Cubs were doing good, right? Remember we were talking about just all of a sudden they went on that stretch against the Braves, the Rays, the Pirates, where all of a sudden you're going, wow, they won, they swept the Pirates, took 2 or 3 from the Rays, 2 or 3 from the Braves. But what they were doing was they were playing small ball. The bullpen was phenomenal. They were stealing bases again. They were getting 2-out hits. You saw PCA start to kind of perk up. You saw Ian Happ start to do really well again. All those awesome things that were happening over the last, 10 games just disappeared against the Reds. It was just unbelievable. And we'll talk about it in the second segment too. But now we have just a giant mess that the Cubs are a part of. And it's not going to be easy to kind of, you could have just made life a lot easier for yourself. And instead you didn't.
Must have been one hell of a party, Crawly. Real quick, what were your thoughts, though? I was happy with Craig Counsell in the lineup in that game. I thought it was nice and the smart thing to do that he actually played Michael Busch in that game.
You did, right? You got to start against a lefty, which again, thankfully
he was batting 8th, right? He was batting 8th, so that's not necessarily ideal for a guy who hit 30 home runs. But at least they let him play, and he wasn't sitting on the bench. They're probably also out of bodies. I don't know who else the hell they would have played if they wouldn't have played him either. So it wasn't, but the point is that he did play against the lefty. So that was good in my opinion.
Now, Tom Cooper's asking us here, do we think it's time to panic for the next 2 weeks? I mean, we only got 1 week.
Well, let's panic. Yeah,
let's start 1 week.
If we're going to panic for 2 weeks, that means because the Cubs are on the road at the Padres, right? I don't like that. So that would be the panic. That would be the 2 week panic. Hopefully we're just dealing with a 1 week panic. Now the good news is that there's only 4 games tonight in Major League Baseball. And one of those games is Brewers at the Padres. Brewers still have something to play for, right? They're still trying to get no
nothing to play for.
I thought they were still trying to get home field throughout the playoffs. Them and the Phillies.
Oh, throughout the playoffs. Yes.
You're right. Them and the Phillies. So that is something, right? That's something to play for. So they do have something to play for. They definitely will be 1 or 2, right? They'll be 1 or 2. They're going to be on the bye, but they still can get home field advantage. So, I mean, those 2 teams are that potentially has like playoff atmosphere written all over it the next 3 days out at San Diego. This is the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. It's episode 55 of season number 4. The Cubs swept out of Cincinnati. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. 5-star reviews will take them. Email us, Crawly's Clubhouse, gmail.com. Don't forget to watch us, as some of you are right now, Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. Standings, because that loss on Sunday, Crawly, came at another price, right?
Yep, the Milwaukee Brewers are your 2025 National League Central champs. And there you again, the Reds aren't going to catch the Cubs. That's not the problem. The Cardinals are still kind of sort of in it, not really. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates are just pirating. But this is where it gets kind of irritating here, and why I'm in a crabby mood is that this wild card situation is really, really wild. So with that sweep of the Cubs, the Reds and the Mets are tied. And in this situation right now, the Reds hold the tiebreaker. So if the season ended today, the Mets are on the outside of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Cubs have the first wild card. And so they have the tiebreaker over the Brewers and Dodgers, but it doesn't matter with the Brewers. That's done. They don't have the tiebreaker against the Phillies, but here is the issue right now. Okay. They still have a chance to win the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Mets. But while any tiebreaker with the Padres would come down to a division record. So the Cubs record against the Padres is 3-3. Okay. And so with it being 3-3, the next thing you go to is divisional play. Okay, what is your record in the division? And that's why this weekend was such a gut punch. With the 4 losses to the Red, the Cubs division record is 27-22. The Padres division record is 29-20. So if the Cubs and the Padres tie, they have to go out to unless a miracle happens. Now, here's the situation. The Padres have 6 games remaining, 3 against Milwaukee, 3 against Arizona. So that's 3 divisional games. The Cubs have 3
and
against
Arizona is still kind of in the mix too, as we're looking at it, right?
Correct. The Cubs have 3 games against the Mets and 3 against St. Louis. And so, I mean, if the Cubs, took all 3 from St. Louis and maybe then San Diego falters against Arizona, that could help out. But if you would have just split the series like we talked about against the Reds, you would have been tied right now with the Padres as far as if they ended up in a tie.
Okay.
So this is all messed up. The Mets
and then we still have the Dodgers and Padres not completely settled out west. That's a 3-game lead with the last week ahead.
Right. So this is a wild west. And if you're taking a look here, this is what it would look like today if the playoffs played today. The Reds would be taking on the Dodgers, and the winner moving on to Philadelphia, and the Cubs would take on the Padres with the winner moving on to Milwaukee. Like you mentioned, Milwaukee is number 1 in the standings, so they're still trying to get home field. And then if you take a look, Dustin, at what's going on in the AL, oh my God, Detroit and Cleveland. When have you? This is ridiculous. They had a 15.5 game lead in July. And now that lead is just absolutely shrinking by the day.
The Guardians are 9-1 in their last 10. The Tigers are 1-9 in their last 10.
You got Seattle. You got Boston would face New York if the postseason started today. You got the Blue Jays who would have the bye. You have Houston creeping around the corner. I mean, this is.
If you can go back to that for a second, though, I hate that. Like Yankees, Red Sox, Guardians, Tigers right off the bat. I mean, ugh. Right. It's like they've played each other so many times. Like they got to figure out a way to not have that happen.
I get it.
That's gross.
But here's the thing, man. Now you're putting all the pressure. I mean, those are, especially when you talk Boston Yankees, that rivalry. I mean, it's just going to add another chapter to it. And I think Detroit knocked Cleveland out last year, if I recall, correct?
I think you're right.
And so there's going to be some bad blood there. I'm very interested in seeing, on the NL side, I don't think there's as much bad blood because you got 2 Central teams against 2 West Coast teams. Although for people of our age set, Dustin, maybe getting a little revenge against the Padres would be nice.
Yeah. So this is interesting going through the whole thing. So ready to move over to the rosters and the injury moves. We kind of hinted at it, got to this a little bit, but Porter Hodge was sent to Iowa after the 2-home run performance back on Friday night, right?
And I don't even know if he was sent to Iowa. They said he was sent to Iowa. He might still be with the team, or they might have done something else.
Did Iowa just end, right?
Iowa just ended on Sunday. And
they said they were doing a taxi squad out in Arizona.
Right. So they want to keep.
I wonder if like Ben Brown's out there, Amaya's over there, right?
Right. Amaya, Porter Hodge, Ben Brown, they're going to continue working. You never know. And remember, in the postseason, you can switch up between the different rounds, or if someone gets injured, you're going to need these guys ready. So they got that there. Obviously there's some
Kyle Tucker, right? Here's the big Kyle Tucker. What's going on with Kyle Tucker, right?
Well, he's coming back to the Cubs.
Right. But Craig doesn't think he plays tomorrow, Tuesday.
No.
So now we're down to 5 games, right? We're down to 5 games.
And again, I don't know, we talked about Tom Cooper. Is it time to panic? I think that he's been in the cages hitting and this and that. It's just been running, right?
Right.
If he can,
well, what do you do then? I mean, Suzuki would play right, correct? You wouldn't sit him down. You need that bat, supposedly. Right? You would play, yeah. you would play him if Tucker, because I'm guessing if Tucker comes back, he's only coming back to DH. He's not going to be in right field.
No, and don't steal bases and any of that silliness.
Well, yeah, no oven mitts, right? You're not wearing the oven mitt. No oven mitt for you, buddy.
I would just say at this point in time, I mean, this is probably the biggest story. After obviously you have to clinch home field, but after that, the story is, can Kyle Tucker be back and be ready to play? I mean, this is huge, and you know how it is in October. All of a sudden, one guy. I remember 2015. Like I knew of Daniel Murphy. I couldn't tell you all his stats. I remember what he did in the postseason in 2015, and you knew his name real well after that. So you can get a guy that can go on a heater in October, and it can change everything. And as disappointing as the season's been for Kyle Tucker, and the question of, well, now is he a 400 million versus 500 million? That could change if he comes back and just dominates.
Well, maybe he could Kyle Schwarber it, right? Maybe he could Kyle Schwarber it.
We'll see what happens. But Daniel Palencia, he pitched in Iowa. He was averaging 99.1 miles per hour. So he is now headed to Chicago, and they're going to kind of talk about what the next step is there. But Dustin, you would love to have these guys healthy and coming back. We got 2 pieces of news, one about a young guy, one about an old guy. Young guy right here, Jonathan Long, was named the Cubs minor league player of the year. That one right there, it wasn't through the Cubs organization, but it was really through Baseball America. And Megan Montemurro wrote up the piece on Long. He's 23 years old. He was /305, 404, 479. He had a career high 20 home runs and 91 RBIs. And when they talked to farm director Jason Kanzler, he kind of pointed out that he has a high walk rate, a low strikeout rate, and an ability to hit the ball hard, often in the air. And Dustin, when I think about Moises Ballesteros and I think about Jonathan Long and seeing what another season could do for Matt Shaw, I'm looking for guys that, have this in them, right? We talk about the home run or bust problem. Guys that can make contact, that don't strike out a bunch, that can walk, that drive up those walks, right? And can hit the ball hard. Those are the 3 things you need. And those are the things I feel like is missing from this team, is the amount of guys that just tighten up when there's runners in scoring position and strike out. Like you got a guy at second and 1 out, and all you got to do, get a hit. You got 2 shots at this. Or a guy at second and no outs, and you strike out, and now you're putting pressure on the next guy. I'm just concerned with the postseason are these guys mentally ready to, they're the postseason, the pressure's ratcheted up even more. Now, one last piece of news here, and that is Bob Nightingale.
Right? The professor. Yeah.
Bob Nightingale in his every Monday morning piece says Angels starter Kyle Hendricks, who helped lead the Chicago Cubs to the 2016 World Series, has informed friends that he expects to retire after the season. Dustin, I have heard myself, separate from Bob, that Kyle's goal was to get to the 100-win milestone.
Okay.
And he's at 105 wins.
Okay.
He's clearly not the same pitcher he was. I think that, he's got a young family. I think maybe, I don't think that Bob's wrong in what he's saying right there. I think that there's a very good chance that Kyle hangs it up. And Dustin, you're probably looking at another Rizzo type situation. Of course, not with the cup snakes and chugging beers with Eddie Vedder, but I could definitely see Kyle Hendricks coming back, signing a one-day contract with the Cubs and getting the love from the fans because, he was, such a big part of that run for the Cubs,
Huge part of it, right? Everybody loves Kyle Hendricks, right? I mean, if you don't like Kyle Hendricks, you don't like human beings. I mean, Kyle, great dude.
And again, what kind of role would you say you see for him possibly with the Cubs in the future? Does Kyle want to go into coaching? Does he want to take a little time off?
Right.
Does he want? Remember they did this with Dempster and a couple other guys. They made him special assistants.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just say, hey, Kyle, wherever you're living now, there's a kid we want you to come check out. Can you give us a scouting report on, this kid out here, something like that? Or, hey, can you go out to Arizona and work with some of the kids? Come to spring training and be another set of eyes. I think the Cubs do a good job of keeping guys like that in the fold. And I would love to see Kyle Hendricks continue to be, resume his career with the Chicago Cubs, whatever it is in the future.
You're listening to the Fly the W podcast. We are happily to be involved with the Blue Wire Network. And don't forget, we'd like you to listen, download, review, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, email us, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com, and watch us, as some of you are right now, on Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube page. All right, the Metropolitans, Crawley, are coming to town, and they have not had the year that they were hoping.
No. And this is Larry Spall right here says, I would like to forget the disaster in Cincinnati, but it sure does not feel good with the Mets. The Cubs here, so he was going elsewhere, right? Second highest payroll in baseball, $341 million, only $7 million behind the Dodgers, but they're in second place in the NL East with a record of 80-76, 12 games behind the Phillies. After losing 2-3 to the Nationals and the Reds winning 5 in a row, they're tied with the Reds like we talked about. And so now, the Mets have struggled in August and September. They went 11-17 in August. They're currently 7-12 in September, including being on the wrong end of a 4-game sweep by the Phillies. The Cubs faced the Mets in New York in the beginning of May. The Mets took 2 of 3, but they were a much better team back then. Jamison Tyone got rocked in the opener, gave up 5 runs and 4 earned in 4 innings. Cade Horton made his debut in the second inning of the middle game, pitched well, but gave up a 3-homer to Brett Beatty, who had 2 home runs that game, but the Cubs took it 6-5. And then the Mets took the rubber game 6-2. The game was tied at 2 before the pen imploded and gave up 4 runs in the 8th. The Mets are currently 4-6 in their last 10 games, losing the last 2. They're 31-44 on the road and 37-40 against teams with a winning record.
All right. All that being said, time for Tale of the Tape. This covers the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is going to cover the last 3 weeks that we look at here. And when we look at the Tale of the Tape, you're going to see a difference here as far as the last 3 weeks, September 1st to September 21st. Mets have the edge in batting average, 12th at 252 in baseball. While the Cubs are 19th in baseball with a 241 batting average. Slug, Mets have the advantage. They're 8th in baseball with a 426 slug. The Cubs are 19th at 402. And then, Dustin, how about this? Runners in scoring position. The Mets are 12th, 275. The Cubs are 27th in baseball out of 30 teams. 214 batting average with runners in scoring position. That tells you all you need to know why the Cubs are where they are right now.
That's not good. That's not good. The starting pitching, though, is still okay.
Yep, starting pitching's 8th at 370, while the Mets, you can see why they're having problems. They're 542, 26 in baseball, starting pitching. How about the bullpen? Again, had some troubles in Cincy, but they're still first in baseball over the last 3 weeks with a .98 whip, while the Mets are at 1.29. And then when we talk about fielding, the Cubs are the second best fielding team in baseball with an 80 defensive runs saved over the season, while the Mets are 14th with 24 defensive runs saved.
All right, so game 1, Cade Horton, David Peterson, a 6:40 first pitch. Again, this is Tuesday night over at the Friendly Confines. So interesting that they've got Cade Horton lined up to go Tuesday, and then a week from Tuesday, is the first game of the postseason.
Very interesting. To me, this all seems lined up for Cade Horton to get the game one start. He's 11-4, 2.66 ERA in 22 games, 21 of them starts, 95 strikeouts, and 115 innings. On September 3rd against the Braves, he pitched 5 scoreless innings. On September 9th in Atlanta, he gave up 1 run in 6 1/3 innings. And then in his last start in Pittsburgh, he outdueled Paul Skeens, giving up 1 run in 5 innings of work. Cade made his major league debut in New York against the Mets on May 10th. Brad Keller opened the game, and Cade came in the second. He gave up 3 runs in the 4th inning, all off 3-run homer by Brett Beatty. But Dustin, no one on the Mets has more than 2 at-bats against Horton, and I feel like he's a much different pitcher now than he was in May.
Absolutely right, Crawly. How about this David Peterson for the Mets? Lefty, though, right? So that's going to make things interesting with the lineup on Tuesday night.
Yep, 30-year-old. You don't want to see Justin Turner and Carlos Santana in the lineup together?
Not
again?
really. Not when you're actually trying supposedly to win the game. No, not exactly.
Hey, what are you talking about? Carlos Santana just got his first hit finally.
Yeah. What was that outfit? Did I text you about that? Was that Friday? What in the world was he wearing? He was wearing like basically Bermuda shorts, like trunks with tights, blue tights. Did you see that? Did you see that look? The pants, Crawly, the pants didn't go to his kneecaps. He had the gray pants on, obviously. He was wearing the uniform. They didn't go to the kneecap. I think I reached out to Bruce and David, and I said, I got to play uniform police here. And I think Bruce's response was, he should be arrested for not having a hit yet. Something along those lines. But yeah, brutal outfit for that guy.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out well. But David Peterson, 30-year-old lefty, a record of 9-6 with a 3.98 ERA and 29 starts, 149 strikeouts, and 167 and a third innings pitch. Peterson was an all-star for the Mets this season, but has struggled in the second half. Peterson was 6-4 with a 3.06 ERA in the first half. In the second half, he's 3-2 with a 5.71 ERA. On September 5th, he gave up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings against the Reds. On September 11th, he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings against the Phillies. And in his last start on September 17th, he gave up 6 runs in 5 innings against the Padres. Peterson is 1-2 with a 4.91 ERA in 5 games started against the Cubs. Nico, 2 for 3 against Peterson, as is Seiya Suzuki. Dansby's 3 for 17 against him. He's an extreme ground ball pitcher who throws a sinker, 4-seamer, slider, changeup, and curve.
All right, game number 2, going to be Matthew Boyd. This one's going at 7:05.
Matthew Boyd versus Jonah Tong. And so this is going to be interesting, Dustin, because again, this is ramping up. What do you have Matthew Boyd against the Mets? The Mets and the Padres all are very lefty heavy, right? And so you're going to, can you do this, Matt? Can you get these guys out? Because that's why you would start a game against San Diego. Just like Peterson, Boyd was awesome before the All-Star game. He was an all-star for the Cubs, 10-3 with a 2.34 ERA. But after the All-Star game, he's 3-5 with a 4.74 ERA, so almost double. Against the Nationals on September 6th, he gave up 2 runs in 7 innings. On September 12th against the Rays, he gave up 4 runs in 5 innings. And in his last start on September 17th, he gave up 4 runs on 7 hits, walked 2, struck out 5 in 3 innings of work, his shortest outing of the season. Boyd faced the Mets in May. He did not get a decision, but gave up 2 runs in 6 innings. In 2 career starts against the Mets, Boyd is 1-0 with a 4.09 ERA. Starling Marte is 2 for 9 against Boyd, and Juan Soto is 1 for 7. But he needs to look out for Francisco Lindor, who's 13 for 36 against him with 3 doubles and 2 home runs.
Yeah, and he needs a good outing, right? Matthew Boyd, this is, I think, a very important start for him. And tell us about Mr. Tong.
Jonah Tong is a 22-year-old rookie phenom. He made his MLB debut on August 29th. The righty was the Mets' 4th-ranked prospect this season. On May 10th, he was involved in a combined perfect game for the Mets' Double-A team, the Rumble Ponies, with 13 strikeouts.
The Rumble Ponies?
The Rumble Ponies, yeah. In the minors, he had a ridiculous 16.4 Ks per 9 this season. His strikeout totals were second only to Brewers phenom Jacob Misarowski. Tong is 2 for 2 with a 5.94 ERA in 4 games started with 21 strikeouts in 16 2/3 innings pitched. Don't let that ERA fool you. He was great in his debut. He gave up 1 run in 5 innings against the Mariners. with 6 strikeouts, but struggled a bit in his second start against the Reds on September 6th. He gave up 4 runs, 3 homers, and 6 innings of work, but once again had 6 Ks. His start on September 12th against the Rangers was a disaster. He didn't make it out of the first inning, gave up 6 runs on 4 hits with 3 walks and 1 K. Dustin, he was visibly emotional after that outing, but his teammates and his manager rallied around him, and in his last start against the Padres, he pitched 5 shutout innings against the Padres with 8 strikeouts. No one on the Cubs has seen this kid before. He's a big strikeout pitcher who features a 95-mile-per-hour 4-seamer, an 86-mile-per-hour changeup, and a wicked curveball.
This doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound like a good one, Crawly. All right, game number 3, Shota Imanaga. Interesting that Horton, Boyd, Imanaga lined up for this. And then again, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we've got postseason baseball and against Nolan McLean.
Yeah, Dustin, this is going to be very similar to the game 2, right? Shota Imanaga, like Matthew Boyd, has been struggling. He's 9-7 with a 3.37 ERA and 24 starts with 114 strikeouts and 139 innings pitched. He's given up 3 earned runs in each of his last 5 starts and 10 home runs in that stretch. September 8th, he gave up 3 runs in 6 innings, 1 home run against the Braves. On September 14th against the Rays, gave up 3 runs in 5 innings, 2 home runs. And his last start against the Reds, he gave up 4 runs, 3 earned in 5 innings, and gave up 3 home runs. Shota did not face the Mets in May. He had just went on the IL, but he faced the Mets twice last season. Once was brilliant. The other was a disaster. On May 1st last year in New York, he pitched 7 scoreless innings. On June 21st in Chicago, the Mets scored 10 runs against him in 3 innings with 3 home runs. So as much as the home runs have been an issue, Shota doesn't allow a lot of hits when he starts games. The Mets are a very left-handed heavy lineup, and Shota's opponents, their batting average is 194 versus lefties against Shota, 216 versus righties. But Dustin, when it comes to the home run, righties have hit 26 home runs against Shota, while lefties have only hit 3.
Well, that's interesting.
Right. If you can combine that with the wind blowing in at Wrigley, that might be something interesting to kind of watch out for. The few Mets have only more than 3 at-bats against Shota. Pete Alonso's 1 for 5. Francisco Lindor is 2 for 4 with 2 doubles, and Starlin Marte is 1 for 5.
All right, so tell us about Nolan McLean.
He's a 24-year-old rookie, and he is doing even better than Tong is doing. As far as he is concerned, he was the Mets' 3rd-round pick in 2023. He was the number 3 prospect. Tong was the number 4 prospect. He made his debut on August 16th, and he's pitched extremely well. He has made 6 starts and not given up more than 2 runs in any of his starts. On September 8th, he gave up 1 run against the Phillies in 5 1/3 inning. On September 14th, pitched 6 scoreless innings against the Rangers, and in his last start against the Nationals, he gave up 1 run and 5 innings of work. This is going to be the first time the Cubs see McLean, who's an extreme ground ball pitcher who gets a lot of strikeouts as well with a sinker, sweeper, curve, 4-seamer, and changeup.
Very, very good. All right, let's
really
continue.
heating up.
Who's hot and who's not?
Well, I think most people could probably figure this out. For the Cubs, Nico Horner is, of course, hot. He's really kind of carrying this team. 8 for his last 26. 308, 333, 308 slash line. Michael Busch is not that hot as far as average, 5 for his last 18, but 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. So he's slashing 278, 417 on base, 722 slug.
Okay. All right. And how about the not?
How much time you got? Let's go with PCA is 4 for his last 22, slashing 182, 174, 227. Seiya Suzuki's 2 for his last 13, 154, 313, 231. And then a lot of the Cubs are hitting in like the mid 200s.
All right. And what do we got to worry about as Cub fans with the Mets?
Oh, there's a lot to worry about, Dustin. Pete Alonso, how about that? 10 for his last 21 with a double, 3 home runs, 5 RBI, slashing 476, 538, 952. How about Francisco Lindor? 9 for his last 23, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, slashing 391, 500, 696. And Juan Soto, 9 for his last 23, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. He's slashing 391, 481, 739. And Starling Marte's 5 for his last 13 with a home run and 2 RBIs, slashing 333, 333, 600.
Very good, very good, very good.
And then not so much. You don't have to worry about Mark Vientos, third baseman. He's 2 for his last 16. He's slashing 125, 125, 188. And Jeff McNeil, second base. He is 2 for his last 18, 111, 200, 167. But Dustin, to do well in the postseason, your stars have to be stars. For the Mets, every game now is their postseason, and their stars are hitting. They just need, they got just a lot, these 2 young pitchers are really carrying them. And unfortunately, the Cubs are running into 2 of them. Well,
then let's get your prediction, Crawly, because it sounds like you're leaning towards a Mets winning the series. Are the Cubs getting swept?
I think that I'm going to be confident that the Cubs are going to take game 1. I think Cade Horton is going to be able to beat David Peterson. David Peterson, I don't think he's just had a bad second half. And obviously Horton's had a good first half. These next 2 games, like I said, they're almost identical. 2 lefties going for the Cubs against 2 young right-handers for the Mets. They haven't seen him before. I just don't like how this match is up. I'm going to be positive and say the Cubs take 2 out of 3, but Dustin, I'm crossing my fingers and my toes.
Yeah, I'm only going to say 1, Crawly. I can't go any farther than that. My thing, we used to say it a lot early on when we started doing this podcast, was the old, just don't get swept. Just don't get swept. And I feel like that's where we're at with this thing. Just don't get swept.
Well, Dustin, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's so hard to predict this team because it's been so inconsistent. They looked so good and then they looked bad. What version of the Cubs are we going to get? The one that can hold down a lead, the one that can run the bases and get hit with runners in scoring position? Or are we going to get the guys that are going to try to hit the home runs and it's going to die on the warning track? And that's what we're going to see.
No, we will have to wait and see. All right, Crawly, that is a wrap. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. A full week at Wrigley for you. You'll be there a couple of days. Crawly, you want to let everybody know what you're up to?
Yeah, I will be there at the last night game on Thursday for the burning of the ball. Hopefully
now you gotta explain that because most people don't know what the burning of the ball is. I asked before we started. Share, please.
Yep, we get a ball and we all sign it, and it's dipped in kerosene and burned to get all the bad juju out. And I think we need it, especially for the postseason. And so that is on Thursday night. And then on Sunday is the last home game of this regular home season game of the season. And I always love going there. You just, love the people that work at Wrigley Field. They're the ones that make the friendly confines friendly. And always just one last, hurrah, just in case, because you never know what's going to happen, but hoping for many, many more games in October.
Well, I hope you're right, Crawly. Let's keep our fingers, keep our toes crossed, and we will definitely be back with everybody that's enjoying the podcast before the playoffs begin. So enjoy it, say a little prayer, maybe enjoy a beverage or 2, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Absolutely. And hey, let's keep our heads up. Let's try to come back, bounce back here. Go Cubs!
It's all over.